Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched a team and felt, deep down, that they were never truly out of the fight? Like, no matter how bad it looked, they were just waiting for the right moment to rise? That's Liverpool. That's what makes this club different. Let's rewind to 25 May 2005, Istanbul. Liverpool versus Milan. On paper, it was a mismatch. At halftime, it looked like a demolition. Milan were up 3-0, cruising, dominant. The greatest midfield in the world. Kaká, Pirlo, Seedorf, all pulling the strings. Crespo finishing with elegance. Maldini scored in the first minute. Everything about this game screamed finality. But if you know Liverpool, if you understand what this club is made of, you know one thing. They're never dead until the final whistle. Because what fuels them isn't just tactics or talent. It's that wild, irrational force that something is always possible. And that night, that was the night Liverpool reminded the world who they really are. This isn't just a football tale. This is about a mentality, a legacy, a club that breathes comebacks and bathes in chaos, that thrives under pressure and finds light in the darkest corners. So let's break it down. Let's talk about what happened in Istanbul. Not just to celebrate a result, but to understand why it happened, why Liverpool did the unthinkable, because maybe then you'll understand what makes this club so special. Let's go back to Anfield, just a few weeks before Istanbul. Chelsea were the favorites, Mourinho's Chelsea, efficient, structured, pragmatic, the kind of team that didn't blink. But that night, they were met with something they couldn't control. Rafa Benítez wasn't trying to outplay Chelsea, he was trying to nullify them, and he did it masterfully. He packed the midfield, gave Gerrard freedom, and stifled Chelsea's rhythm. You had Gerrard constantly disrupting Makelele, Hamann and Biscan neutralizing Lampard and Thiago. Drogba was left isolated, fighting ghosts in Carragher and Hypia. Luis Garcia scored early. Maybe. Whether the ball fully crossed the line is still debated.
In towards Barros, he's been checked through it, the goalkeeper made contact, Luis Garcia wanted to cross the line, Gallas hooked it away, goal!
And let's be honest, if there were VAR back then, maybe the goal wouldn't have stood. But football isn't made of what-ifs, it's made of facts. And the fact is, the referee pointed to the center circle. That was the decision. And in that moment, the entire stadium exploded. From that point on, Anfield wasn't a stadium, it was a weapon. Every clearance felt like a goal, every tackle felt like a message. The fullbacks, Gallas and Del Horno, were pinned. Chelsea tried everything, width, long balls, changes in shape, but Liverpool never cracked. Mourinho had possession, territory, names, but he didn't have the night. Because Liverpool didn't just play to win, they played to survive. And they did it with a collective obsession Chelsea couldn't match. By the end, even Chelsea's best couldn't find a shot on target until the hour mark. Dudek stood firm, Carragher bled for it. The final whistle wasn't just relief, it was prophecy. Let me take you inside the stadium for a second. Not the pitch, not the dugout, higher, into the Red Sea of Liverpool fans that filled the Ataturk Olympic Stadium. That sound? That wasn't just singing, that was defiance. Most fans, when their team is 3-0 down at halftime in a Champions League final, they go quiet. Or worse, they leave. But not this crowd. They stayed. They sang. They roared like it was still 0-0. And slowly, you could feel something change. Not on the scoreboard, not yet, but in the air. Because belief doesn't just live in players. It's in the stands. It's contagious. And that night, it spread like wildfire. You'll Never Walk Alone echoed across Istanbul like a hymn. It wasn't about false hope. It was about identity, about what it means to be a Liverpool supporter, about refusing to let your team walk alone even when they're falling apart. And maybe, just maybe, that song made its way to the tunnel. Maybe Gerrard heard it. Maybe Hamann did. Because when Liverpool stepped back onto that pitch, they looked different. You have to ask yourself, what kind of fan base believes at 3-0? What kind of supporters get louder when the odds get worse? Only one kind. The kind that doesn't follow a team. The kind that is the team. That night in Istanbul, the comeback didn't start with a goal. It started with a chorus. All right, picture this. You're sitting in front of the TV, or maybe you're one of the lucky ones in the stadium. And after just 45 minutes, you're watching your team, Liverpool, trail 3-0 in a Champions League final. Not just any final, against AC Milan. And not just any Milan. Maldini, Nesta, Cafu, Kaká at his absolute peak, slicing through midfielders like they weren't even there. Crespo finishing with elegance. And yet, Liverpool wasn't done, not even close. Because that's not how this club works. This isn't a team built on just talent. It's built on something defiant. While most teams would have mentally packed it in, this squad, this club kept the engine running. Quietly, patiently. You could see it in Gerrard's face as he walked off the pitch at halftime. You could hear it in the stands too. The fans didn't boo, they sang. You'll never walk alone, louder than ever. They believed somehow. And that kind of belief, it seeps into the shirts, into the boots, into hearts. So no, Liverpool didn't come out for the second half to save face. They came out to rewrite everything. Because when you wear that shirt, you don't surrender. You find breath when there is none left. You know what's wild? It didn't take a full half. It didn't even take 20 minutes. All Liverpool needed were 6. Minute 54, Gerrard rises.
Charged down by Cafu. In towards Gerrard! Hello! Here we go!
Times his header perfectly, and it's in. That wasn't just a goal, it was a spark. His celebration wasn't just joy, it was urgency, a rallying cry. Suddenly, heads lifted, legs ran faster, the energy shifted. And then, not even 2 minutes later, Smicer.
Smicer! It's in! It's in! Vladimir Smicer!
A man who wasn't even supposed to start lets fly from distance. It skims low and true. Dudek can't reach it. 3-2. And just like that, Milan looked rattled. Then the penalty. Alonso steps up, misses, but the rebound lands perfectly and he makes no mistake the second time. 3-3. In 6 minutes, the unthinkable. You could feel Europe watching in disbelief. Commentators scrambling, fans screaming. Milan in shock. Liverpool transformed. These weren't just 3 goals. They were punches thrown at fate. Every pass, every shot fueled by the crowd behind them. And for Milan, the worst part, they knew the momentum had shifted. And once it did, there was no getting it back.
Let's talk legacy. Because what happened in Istanbul didn't end with the final whistle. It didn't fade with time. That night became a tattoo on the soul of every Liverpool fan. Permanent, visible, unforgettable. See, most comebacks get remembered for a few seasons. Maybe they pop up in a YouTube video or a nostalgic highlights reel. But this one became folklore. It's the kind of story dads tell their kids, eyes wide like it just happened yesterday. And for Liverpool, for the club, the city, the people, it was more than a trophy. It was proof. Proof that no matter how dark it gets, there's always a way back. That final didn't just give Liverpool a 5th European Cup. It gave them a new identity for a new era. It reminded Europe that this club, this badge, this anthem, they still meant something. That Anfield wasn't just a place, it was a force. And let's be honest, without Istanbul, do we get Klopp's Liverpool a decade later? Do we get Barcelona 4-0? Do we get Madrid and Paris? That night reignited something. In the fans, in the boardroom, in the players yet to come. Istanbul was the moment Liverpool looked destiny in the face and said, we're not done yet. Because immortality isn't about perfection. It's about moments. And no club collects them quite like Liverpool. Tell me this doesn't sound like something out of a movie. A giant of Europe, down 3-0 at halftime. A crowd singing through their tears. A captain dragging his team back from the brink. 3 goals. A miracle. Extra time. Cramp. Penalties. A goalkeeper dancing on the line like it's a schoolyard trick. And then, glory. It's almost too perfect, isn't it? You watch that second half and wonder, who wrote this? Because it had everything. Conflict, despair, resilience, a hero's arc, supporting characters stepping into the light, Smicer, humming, Dudek, plot twists, cliffhangers, redemption. It's the kind of story that if you pitch it to a producer, they'd laugh you out of the room. Too unrealistic, they'd say, too sentimental. But that's football, and that's Liverpool. This club doesn't do scripts. It tears them up, rewrites them in ink made of sweat and blood and belief. And if it feels theatrical, it's because Liverpool's history is theater. It's drama, it's hearts breaking and rebuilding within minutes. And the miracle of Istanbul? That was the season finale of a show that keeps finding new ways to stun us. And if you're wondering how something like that happens in real life, maybe the answer is simpler than you think. It happens because it's Liverpool. Time moves on, players retire, teams evolve, fans age. But Istanbul? That night doesn't age. It lingers, like an echo, like a hymn, like a story that refuses to stand the past. You could walk into any pub in Liverpool right now, mention that night, and someone will tell you exactly where they were, what they felt, who they were with. It's not just a memory. It's a chapter burned into the collective identity of a people. Because it wasn't just about football. It was about belief, about holding on when everyone else lets go, about rising, not because you're the strongest, but because you refuse to stay down. And the best part? It still gives people goosebumps. Still plays on repeat in minds and hearts. Still gets talked about in schools, in living rooms, on away days. Every club has its stories, but only a few have moments that transcend the sport, that become part of something greater. For Liverpool, that moment has a name, Istanbul. And until the final breath of the final fan who sang that night, it'll live on. Now let's entertain the thought, just for a second. What if Gerrard didn't score that header? What if Smicer scuffed his shot wide? What if Dida held on to Alonso's penalty? What if Dudek had dived the wrong way in the shootout? You can go mad thinking about all the things that could have gone the other way. But here's the thing. Football isn't built on what ifs. It's built on what happened. And what happened is this. Liverpool came back from 3-0 down in a Champions League final against one of the best teams ever assembled. They did it with heart, grit, belief, and yes, maybe a little luck. But mostly, they did it because they refused to lose. So yeah, maybe in some alternate universe, the story ends differently. But in ours, the referee pointed to the center circle, Dudek made the saves, Gerrard lifted the trophy, and a city exploded with joy. That's not fiction. That's not fantasy. That's legacy. If you made it this far and you're feeling it, subscribe. Help me hit that 1,000 mark. And drop a comment. Where were you that night? What moment hit hardest? Let's keep the legacy alive.